If you're tired of doing endless curls at the gym only for your arms to be mediocre at best, then check out this video and I'll break down exactly how to actually grow your arms. There's a major issue with modern bodybuilding, as everyone is probably well aware, that the physiques aren't really that aesthetic. And it's obvious the shoulders and the waist ratio, and that's like the very obvious one. But a big thing I don't see anybody really talking about is the aesthetics of the arm. And it's because most people, I think, just don't understand how to actually grow their arms. And this works for beginners and also for bodybuilders as well. Like, I'll throw up a photo on the screen here of a classic, bodybuilder arm aesthetic look. And they have overdeveloped biceps in comparison to the actual tricep mass. And it gives this weird, like, front heavy, hunched over kind of look to their physique, and it's something that can be very easily fixed. And you can do that by literally just understanding what you're actually trying to accomplish. And this goes with basically all training as well, and anything else that you're actually doing, is knowing what you're actually trying to achieve is going to help you get to that goal. Because if you don't really know what you're actually trying to do with a movement, you're probably not going to get to the result you actually want. So with the arm in particular, how to grow your arms, everyone knows like a tricep or the tricep muscle makes up around 2/3 of your arm muscle mass or your upper arm muscle mass. So most people obviously know the tricep, it's in the name. There's three main sections of this muscle. We have the long head, the lateral head, and the medial head. But the long head itself makes up 2/3 of the actual tricep. At least it should. And when you look at physiques from the past, like a great example of this is Arnold's arms. They're massive, and obviously, yes, he had big biceps, but he mainly had huge long head triceps, and that's what gave them that look where it just hangs off the back of your arm. And if that particular muscle makes up 2/3 of your tricep, and your tricep makes up 2/3 of your overall upper arm, that is the muscle that we really want to bias when we do our arm training for the most bang for your buck. So how to actually target the long head of your tricep is what you're probably thinking. And to do this, you need to increase the angle between your upper arm and your torso. So if you're doing push downs on the cable like this, there's really no angle between your upper arm and your torso. So you're mainly going to hit the medial and the lateral head of the tricep doing those types of push downs. And they have a place, but majority of your tricep training should be biasing the long head, like I said. So to do that, you want to lift your arms above your head, and literally just doing any kind of overhead extension is what's going to bias the long head. You're going to get some crossover. You can't just do 100% long head and 0% of the lateral and medial head. Same with every other exercise. You're always going to get some crossover, but this is going to bias the long head. And when I figured this out a couple years ago, this is really where my arms blew up in size. They're obviously not by no means the biggest arms in the world or anywhere close to that, but I went from extremely skinny, my arms were my weakest point by far, to now they're one of the strongest points of my physique. And I did this purely from changing how I actually train arms. Is I do overhead dumbbells, or single dumbbell overhead, and I do that as the first exercise when I'm focused training my arms. I'm not doing 3 sets of push downs at the end of a workout. I'm focusing on trying to grow my triceps in particular. And this is something I've found interesting is I've trained all around the world with a bunch of different people, different influences and things like that. And what I've always found is they're usually stronger than me on like everything besides tricep movements. And this shows you that so many guys, even guys in great shape, aren't training their triceps enough. And that's why they're fatiguing so much faster than, say, when I'm training with them. My triceps are completely fine. I can keep going and pushing them harder, and they're stronger. So it's a proportion kind of thing. You need to really focus on growing your triceps. Obviously, you're still doing biceps and things like that, but triceps should be your 100% main focus, and in particular, the long head of the tricep. So to break down like a workout, what I actually do for my arms, bear in mind this might not be the best for you. It's always best to find what actually works for you. In general though, the long head movements are always going to be the best, but just figure out what feels the best for your particular body and your bone length, so on and so forth. So what I would typically do, so to break down a workout of what I actually do for arms is always train your arms as the first thing, especially the triceps. So do your long head tricep movement as the first movement on any arm day. Don't just do, 3 sets of tricep pushdowns at the end of training chest once a week, right? Your arms are never going to really grow that way. Obviously, if you're taking the intensity extremely high, maybe you'll get some results, but it's always good to do like a dedicated, fully biasing the long head tricep at the start of the workout when you're fresh, when you have the most energy, and you can really fatigue that muscle as much as possible, so therefore it can grow. So a typical workout that I would do for arms is I do a dumbbell overhead extension, and I'll do between 2 and 4 sets depending on the intensity that day. If I can really push to failure, I'd probably only do 2 sets, and I have someone spotting me. I can go past failure. They basically just, like a waiter, just kind of help at the back with the dumbbell, and you can really overload the long head of the tricep this way. You really can't load it as well on any other exercise as the dumbbell seated overhead extension with back support as well. So you're extremely stable. You're just overloading that long head of the tricep. After that, I would switch to some biceps. Maybe it doesn't really matter, incline curls where you're leaning back, doing, between, again, 2 to 4 sets of incline curls, depending on how intense we can get that set. And it's going to change week to week. So having just a set number of you're doing this many sets every single time isn't always the best. You need to really balance the volume and the intensity. And sometimes you're not going to reach that peak intensity. And for those occasions, then you want to increase the volume. So we do dumbbell overhead extension, some kind of incline curls. After that, we'll move on to a cable overhead extension. You can do it single arm or you can do it with both. Doesn't really matter, whatever you feel works best and gets you the best, squeeze and fatigue on that long head of the tricep. After that, go to your next bicep movement. Could just be standard dumbbell alternating curls, or preacher curls if you want more of a long head on the bicep now. The bicep also has the short head and the long head too. So the main focus with your arm training should be long head driven. You want to bias the long head as much as you can on your tricep. That's exactly what I've done over the last few years. Really, my only tricep training has been overhead extensions. And every now and then I'll throw in some cable pushdowns just for some lateral and medial bias. But you really don't need it as much as everyone's doing them. It's probably the most common tricep movement is rope pushdowns. And a really important thing to remember when you are doing the overhead extensions is you want to completely close this gap in here. So don't do a tricep extension, and the same goes for the cables. Don't do it to here and then go up, because you're missing like 60% of the movement. So when you're doing it, you want to come all of the way down and then all the way back up. You don't want to do these little half reps here just to try overload it. You want to overload the lengthened portion of the tricep, which is going to be all the way back here. So as far back as you can get your arm and as far down as you can get your arm, this is where you want to go from. So if you can only do a lightweight doing that, start with that, and then you can obviously slowly work up. Don't try to do massive amounts of weight, only doing these like half little reps to here. Do a lighter weight all the way down and get that full stretch, and then open it up as much as you can. So that is really the key, in my opinion, and the secret to actually growing your arms, even as a natural lifter, even as a skinny guy, so you don't fall victim to this strange modern phenomenon of weird arm aesthetics. You can go back to the golden era and have the big long head tricep just hanging off the back of your arm, and you can get that Arnold-like arm aesthetics.